I think for both of us, one of the first significant world events we remember in our lives is the lunar landings, watching them on television. The amazing atmosphere.
5 years old?
Yeah, 5 years old. And the amazing atmosphere there was throughout the country, but also the whole world. I was watching them as a small child in England. Everyone in the world was kind of watching these few people in a very distant place go to a new world for the first time.
Ignition sequence start. 6.
It's the earliest TV show that I can remember of any type. I remember sitting at the foot of my parents' bed and watching this tiny color monitor. It's just so clear in my mind, the experience of sitting there and watching this otherworldly experience. It was about the future and this incredible scientific feat that was super modernist, and now it's so far in our past.
Yeah.
A nostalgia for this great period of pushing on towards the future. It feels like such a strange time shift, and that kind of warping is, I think, partly what attracted both of us to this.
Yeah, because
period.
now it's far enough beyond the NASA stuff that you can look back on it in that way.
Propellant load pressure and temperature. Digital transmission worldwide tracking. Stabilization and guidance. Radio frequency telemetry and voice communications. Signal conditioner integration. Spacecraft electrical power. Flight control. S4B propulsion stage monitoring. S1C, S2 propulsion stage. Every important valve, gauge, and circuit was continually monitored at launch control.
I had read in A Man on the Moon by Andrew Chaikin, one of our source books, about this dream. Astronaut Charlie Duke walked on the moon in April 1972 during the Apollo 16 mission. Duke rarely ever had dreams, and remembered his dreams even less so. But 6 months before his trip to the moon, thanks to a flu and a high fever, Charlie had one of the most vivid dreams he had ever had. In this dream, Duke saw himself with his mission commander John Young driving their lunar rover vehicle on the moon.
Still looking very good.
As they came over a ridge, Charlie saw a set of tracks on the ground. "Can we follow the tracks?" Duke asked Mission Control. "Go ahead."
Man, we come a long way.
It was a vehicle that looked like their rover.
Go straight across. That was
On the vehicle were two figures in spacesuits.
okay.
Duke raised the opaque sun visor of one on the right seat and looked squarely into his own face. Mission Control asked them to take samples of the spacesuits. The dream cut immediately to Lunar Receiving Laboratory at NASA, where Duke presented the samples to the scientists. The test revealed that the suits were 100,000 years old. Suddenly, Charles Duke woke up. 6 months later, as his real lunar module descended to land on the real moon, he glanced out onto the surface to look for boulders and to look for a set of tracks. There weren't any. So I read that, and it was after we had built our rover, and we both just got this incredible feeling that this is exactly what this project was strangely about.
We are very attracted to barren landscapes, and we felt like we'd kind of maybe used up a lot of the barren landscapes on Earth, and we needed to...
Yeah, the moon is the ultimate barren landscape.
It's the ultimate barren landscape. I became obsessed with the idea of somehow building our own moonscape and taking our own pictures in it, which would be our own version of both the kind of NASA trips and some earlier trips that didn't actually take place.
It's basically a heavy canvas tarp that I laid over a bit of bubble wrap and crunched up newspapers to make the mountains, and then I mixed batch after batch of plaster of Paris. It was a complex thing, but I did it all in one day, the initial cratering of the moon, following the pictures I saw in Michael Light's Book of the Moon, the way the kind of contours, scale of mountains to cratery valleys. Also, we were reading Victor Pelevin's story,
Amun-Ra.
Amun-Ra, which is about...
It's about the Russian space program, which is kind of slowly revealed throughout the book to be completely faked.
You can't describe Kahn and Selesnick in a particularly concise way because there's a lot that has to be said about their work, but they are a collaborative team that have been collaborating since 1986, and they combine photography and performance and sculpture and narrative and almost a sense of low-budget filmmaking into their work.
We wanted to see if we could combine two different time-space worlds in one. Normally we've kept a one time world, but here we have the Edwardians on the moon who have been there since, say, 1905, and it's not really sure. And then the 1969, 71, somewhere around there, astronauts come up and find that there's someone who's been there before. It's not fantasy for us. Fantasy to me seems like something that could have never happened, and most of our work sort of tries to avoid that particular route. We don't go very Tolkien-ish naturally. But if it's something that feels, it may be history, but it's absurd history, something slightly wrong with it.
Are we done? Got it, right here.
They create sort of faux historical narratives about events and episodes that have never occurred. Each image is a setup. It's propped, it's costumed, it's usually shot on location somewhere.
Some of the research is on the more serious side, but then also things like this, I just think are fantastic. And so there's a kind of certain element of wanting to do something that is like kind of accessible in a slightly kind of comic book kind of way.
Cut the rocket.
Yeah, the Tintin book was big influence for the whole project, and Richard happened to have the Tintin rocket in bad repair at his house.
Quite deep. Watch out. How close? It needs to be pretty close, I'd
Yeah, I think maybe there.
This little watery bit here?
No, further back.
I've always loved depictions of the moon before people actually went there and what they imagined it would look like. So for our moon, we wanted a combination of the moon that the astronauts photographed, but also to refer back a bit to some of the more kind of fanciful ideas people had about the landscape there before anyone had actually seen it firsthand.
Okay, Tintin?
And in fact, I think what you might want to do before we do this is stomp down the bog in front of the rocket to create a pond.
It's not very nice to the cranberries. It comes right back.
No, it comes right back, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
How's that look?
God.
Impressive?
I just totally believe it.
Excellent.
Each body of work has its own specific process, and what's interesting about them is this combination of sort of hands-on, low-tech, sort of a very simple, unfinished way, and yet they combine that with the most recent cutting-edge digital technology.
I think the reason that we don't belabor the actual shooting of the photographs is because we end up in the post-production belaboring them there.
Yeah, countless hundreds of hours on
So
everything.
it doesn't really matter if you do the photographs slightly badly, because you don't necessarily know quite what you want at the time anyway.
I'm getting out of here.
Oh, that was perfect for a minute.
It'll be perfect. It's gonna keep going.
I can't even see the rocket. Oh my God, it's all coming right towards me. I can't do anything.
That almost worked. There it is, Rich.
We like surprises, we like accidents. If we're looser in the field, we get more accidents. It gives us more unconscious effects that we wouldn't have predicted, and it's much more exciting and fun, and we can almost always go any direction we want with the computer afterwards.